What's up, guys? Jeremy with Everything iDevice, and in this video we're going to be comparing the iPad Air versus the iPad 2. I figured this would be a good video since Apple has basically removed the iPad 3 and the iPad 4 from their website. This is kind of for those of you that are probably trying to decide whether you want the Air or the 2. So this should be a good test. Basically, we're just going to be testing the GPU, the CPU, and also the web browsing JavaScript to see how good each device is at web browsing, because that's probably one of the big main things you would use with one of these devices besides gaming and whatnot. So as you know, the iPad Air is the newest version of the full-size iPad, and the iPad 2 is actually rather old, and there's only $100 difference between the two. The iPad 2 16GB Wi-Fi version starts at $399, and the equivalent iPad Air starts at $499. So there's only $100 difference between these devices, and I guess in this video it'll show you whether that $100 is actually worth it to just do the upgrade and kind of aim away from that iPad 2. First off, I would like to say that there's a huge difference between the displays on both of these devices. The iPad 2 does not have a Retina display. You can see the pixels on it, and the iPad Air does have that beautiful Retina display. It's basically double the pixels per inch in comparison against the iPad 2. So the huge difference in the display. I'm not going to go over too much, design or anything in this video, just because I mainly want to focus on the GPU, CPU, and JavaScript, and that alone should be enough to let you know whether you want to spend that extra $100 on the iPad Air. So the first test we're going to be doing is Geekbench 3, and this is basically going to test out the CPU of both devices. The iPad 2 does have the A5, and the iPad Air does have the new A7 with the 64-bit architecture. So let's just go ahead and run these benchmarks, and I will speed through this because the iPad 2 probably will take quite a bit of time to do this test. As you can see, the iPad Air is just already blowing the iPad 2 out of the water. So let's go ahead and speed this up. Come on, iPad 2, you can do it. You can do it. As you can see, the iPad 2 took, I believe, like almost 4 or 5 times longer than the iPad Air. And oh, there we go. And as you can see, there is an extreme difference in terms of performance. With the difference in these numbers, you really are going to notice a performance difference in real-world settings. If you were to do one thing on the Air here and do another on the iPad 2, you're going to notice just a huge difference in between the two numbers. As you can see, the iPad Air hit a single core score of 1481, a multi-core score of 2693, and the sad iPad 2 there hit a single core score of 265 and a multi-core score of 499. So like I said, this is just a huge difference in terms of the CPU between the two devices, and you will notice this. You will definitely notice this. So that's the difference between the CPU between the both. Now let's go ahead and let's run the graphics to see how much better the GPU is in comparison to the iPad 2. And with that, we're going to be using GFX Bench on both of these here, and we'll select Performance Tests. Yes, I will agree to that. And Performance Test, and we're going to do the, right there, the 2.7 T-Rex HD. So now I'm going to go ahead and run this on both of these as well, and this I'll fast forward also because the iPad 2 is probably going to take quite a bit of time to do this test as well. Alright, so I did really want to quickly mention here, you can definitely see the difference in quality between the two displays there as we went through that test. The saturation and just, the color and contrast of the iPad Air just looks way better than the iPad 2. Like I said, the iPad 2 does not have a Retina display. You will be able to see the pixels on the iPad 2, and with the iPad Air, you will not be able to tell with that. So I'll have to let's see here. What do we get with the iPad Air? We got 21 frames per second, scoring a 1,167. And the iPad 2 hit a 6.4 frames per second with a score of 356. Yet again, this is a huge difference between the two with graphics or the GPU. So again, gaming on the iPad Air or watching videos and whatnot is going to look tremendously better on the iPad Air in comparison to the iPad 2. So that's the GPU. Yet again, the iPad Air blew the iPad 2 out of the water. And last but not least, we do have the SunSpider JavaScript test, which is basically going to test the web browsing power of each device. So let me go ahead and zoom in here so I can click these pretty accurately. And I'm not trying to do these at the same time. Obviously, the iPad Air is going to win. I just want to see the differences between the two. So let's go ahead and start those both up. Alright, and the iPad Air is already done, and as you can see right here, there is the score of the iPad Air, which is pretty ridiculous, 379 milliseconds, and the iPad 2, let's see what this guy got, 1,273 milliseconds. So yet again, that is just a tremendous boost between the two. The lower the number for this, the better. So obviously 379 is a really good score for the iPad Air. So even browsing on Safari, the iPad Air is going to be doing it a lot faster, even if it's on the same Wi-Fi connection. It's just going to blow the iPad 2 out of the water. So that's going to be pretty much it for this video, guys. I just want to show you guys a quick comparison between the CPU, the GPU, and then the web browsing power of the iPad Air versus the iPad 2. Now, like I was saying, there is a $100 difference between the two devices on Apple.com right now. The iPad 2 starts at $399 and the iPad Air starts at $499, like I said. I would definitely say the extra $100 to basically, I would say, almost quadruple the performance between these two devices is worth $100 hands down. So if you're tight for money, I would say just save up that extra $100 and get yourself the iPad Air. You're going to be way more satisfied with this device in comparison to the iPad 2. And the iPad 2 is just outdated, and I don't even think it should be on Apple.com right now. I think they should have left maybe, I don't know, the iPad 3 or no, probably the iPad 4. Considering this still comes with the 30-pin, connector, and I think they just need to kind of get rid of that device and just go with the newer stuff. But that's just my opinion. So I hope you guys like this quick comparison between the CPU, GPU, and also web browsing power between these two devices. If you did enjoy it, definitely throw me that thumbs up. That will help me out tremendously. And if you guys want to see more iPad comparisons coming soon, be sure to click that subscribe button. This has been Jeremy with Everything iDevice, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.